Hi, and welcome to this week's GMBN Tech Show. Coming up this week, we have a look at Commencal's new cross-country bike.
Short travel something, the Tempo. Like anyway, we are drop some wavy-looking wheels.
Now, Bike Yoke have got a suspension saddle.
Sort of, and again. And we talk about winter bikes.
Indeed we do.
Brr.
Okay, in the Northern Hemisphere, it's winter, which usually means just wet and mud, basically. So we're forever cleaning bikes and we're forever trying to make decisions about what the best setup is to ride. Now, this conversation kind of comes around a little bit because I'm a member of a local riding group who admittedly I've not ridden with for some time, but I did really enjoy a post on there where two of the riders on there had just built up their, I think they were the stiff hardtails, I can't remember the model of them, Mort, I think they're called, Morph even. And they were praising them for being like the best all-round winter thing. And one of the other guys on the group, who I know quite well, a guy called Matt, he was just like, what are you talking about? Like, why would you choose to ride a bike that's harder to ride off-road in winter? Just use your same suspension bike and you get all the benefits of it. And I could see both sides of this. Yeah. And I thought this is a good one to go in on.
Absolutely, don't, because you always hear people say, oh, the winter hardtail or the winter bike. You know, well, what is a winter bike? And I think a lot of people go down the hardtail route because, you know, there's less parts like the rear suspension, pivot bearings, there's less maintenance, but also better mud clearance as well because there's less going on in the back there. And maybe it's just one of those bikes that you sort of care less about because it's got cheaper components on, so you're not replacing the good stuff on your race bike or whatever. And you know, maybe you're going slow in the winter anyway, so why not embrace that slowness on the hardtail, learn a few extra skills. It's lighter than the full sus as well, so when you're pedaling through treacle or going up climbs, it's just a bit easier on you. I get it, I do get it, but
and I do get that as well.
Is it worth it, you know, buying a whole bike instead of replacing parts on your full sus?
No,
is
I
that
mean,
cheaper?
I think unless you're stuck in one or two camps, I think from my perspective, it's worth it if you've got access to a load of parts and you could just buy a cheap frame or a second-hand frame and do it. Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah.
But honestly, full suspension.
If I'm going enduro riding, proper enduro riding, or hitting a technical trail centre, I'm taking my full sus.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go, oh, it's the winter.
All I change in winter is put some waterproof shoes and trousers on, use a wet lube, use a bigger front mudguard, and maybe put a front tyre on a bit more grip.
Yeah.
That's my winter setup.
Actually, I think I ride my gravel bike more in the winter because you can go from your doorstep. It means that, you know, when you've got less time because the days are shorter or you're doing more family stuff, then you can just get a sub 2 hour ride from your doorstep. I think maybe for that reason, Neil would probably choose an e-bike as his winter bike because he can go out and blast a sub 2 hour ride and make all the climbs a descent as well.
To be fair, the e-bike, I've got an e-bike which pretty much only gets used in winter for that exact reason. When it's that filthy out there, it's not riding in bad conditions, it's just the time it takes to ride in those conditions.
Yeah.
And Neil, like myself, will be on a time constraint, so you can go out 2 hours, burn yourself out, and that would take 5 hours probably on a cross-country bike.
Yeah.
And that's a long time to be out if clock's against you.
Although I will say, and sort of apologise to the viewers here, is that in our country, winter is just a bit of rain and some mud. And they're probably looking at us thinking, you've got it lucky. Because I did a race where I met a bunch of Canadians and we did the race sort of in the spring. And they said they only just got back on their bikes. They'd been skiing all winter to stay fit for biking, which I think I felt so sorry for them because they get so much snow. So fat bikes are really the winter bike,
skis,
aren't they? Well,
surely skiing is far superior.
Oh, I don't know about that. Is that even good training? I don't know. Maybe we should throw this over to the.
Well, rumour has it that cross-country skiing is the ultimate all-round thing in the world ever. Yeah.
I don't know.
But I don't do it, so I wouldn't know. But if you know anything about cross-country skiing, let us know down there and put us straight. The fat bikes.
It's not biking to me. Yeah. Fat bikes are intriguing. They're good. You know, you can have low pressures, so you can sort of sit on top of mud, sand, snow, and you can get them as light as 22 pounds these days. Like, you're not just having a big,
That's a Jurassic Park scientist moment, though, isn't it? Too busy trying to see if they should, and didn't think if they could. Or could or should.
The other way around.
Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Well, okay.
But, you know, hold on. I've got to say one thing about it, right? The snow, sand, all that stuff, 100% makes sense. And I did ride some fat bikes really early on just to think, like, why on earth are people riding these daft-looking cartoon bikes? And I got it. But the mud, nah. doesn't
Not
work.
a fan of the mud.
No, I think it slides around on the mud. I'm used to smaller tyres that cut through and give you grip, but it does depend, I guess, on the mud that you're riding.
So I guess a winter bike depends on what your winter is like and where you are. So I don't know, let's throw it over to the viewers, shall we? Is there such a thing as a winter bike? Do you have a winter bike? Is it a hardtail or a full sus, or is it a fat bike? Or are you just adding things like flat pedals and mud guards? Is that a winter bike? I don't know. Let us know down in the comments below. And if you want us to sort of explore more winter tech as well, let us know what you want to see. So Commencal have finally released that short travel, trail, down country, whatever prototype that we've been seeing underneath Ormery Pirion at some XC races and Cecile Ravenel being the skills coach. In fact, we talked about it last weekend on our hottest XC and down country bikes last weekend. And they've just dropped the video, so if you head over to Commencal's YouTube channel, you'll see Hugo Frixtalon absolutely pinned on this bike. Yeah. Oh my days, he's got some speed and some style. It is crazy to watch. I was exhausted by the end of the 3-minute video. And they're not releasing any solid details about the bike just yet. In fact, you'll have to wait until the 1st of December, tomorrow, to find out what that bike is all about. But we can see that it does have that kind of, that full aluminium frame that we're accustomed to seeing with Commencal. And it's also got that virtual pivot point system with a dual linkage. And he's running Fox 34s there, so we're guessing it has to be either 130 or 140. You're saying it looks like 130, Doddy.
Speculation.
Yeah.
It looks about 130 there.
So it's possibly going to be maybe a 120 rear, 130 front, I'm guessing. So it will be down country-ish, but also just a super playful trail bike. And yeah, it's just worth a watch, to be honest. What are you thinking?
I think it looks really nice.
Hot,
Slightly less welds than on the prototypes we saw. That was like a bike made of welds.
Yeah.
But yeah, actually, I think it does it really nice. I mean, yeah, 120 bike that you could jump up with a bit more travel on the front. That's kind of like, I mean, that's me all over.
Yeah, well, I used to ride the old Kotick, which was a 125 rear and a 140 or 130, 140 up front. I took that thing to the Alps. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting bike.
Awesome stuff. Looking forward to the first. Next up in news, Yoke have released a new light version of their Sagma saddle. So, in case you're unaware, Sagma saddle, kind of peculiar design, really. It's got like rails that are isolated with little rubber bumpers that can be tuned to basically give you a bit of suspension. It enables the top of the saddle to move. Now, this saddle is actually based on a saddle that I remember reviewing way back in 2016 by a startup company called Magor, and they actually came up with a concept for it, but Yoke took it to the next level, essentially. And you can see on the screen here, you've got carbon and chromoly rail options. The carbon weighs just 169 grams. And it's a pretty cool looking concept. You know, saddle pain and saddle discomfort can be a big problem for a lot of riders. Perhaps less so if you're doing full suspension, out of saddle stuff, more so if you're doing endurance, long distance, or if you ride a hardtail perhaps. So I'd say definitely worth having a look at their tech. See if you can get something a bit more comfy under your bum cheeks.
Yeah, nice. Also, We Are One have just released the Convergence series rims, and you'll notice the profile looks quite unusual. They've updated their previous Union 29 rim and replaced them with these models. And basically, they've tried to make it 32% stronger, is their claim. And the way they've done this, you're laughing at that already.
I tried to make it. I want to make it 32%
stronger. They've focused on single wall impact failures and sort of reinforcing certain areas to make it stronger. But the big thing is, if you check these out on screen, you've got that sort of wavy pattern, and what that allows is a 7.5 degree alternating faces for the spokes and the nipples to interact with the rim. And apparently this reduces noise and also fatigue around the nipples too. So it's supposed to be, excuse me, so it's supposed to be a smoother and quieter ride, as well as a stronger ride. It should be less fatiguing. They've also played around with some of the materials to make it less fatiguing as a ride as well, because there'll be less vibration coming from the wheel. So it's interesting, we've got 3 models available. You've got the Sector 28 wide, then you have the Triad, which is 30 mil wide, and then the Fuse 33 mil wide, and we're looking at $605 Canadian dollars, or $475 for the rims. Or you can build up the i9 Hydra hubs for a full set at 2,000 Canadian dollars or $1,800.
Not cheap. I do like the rim design though, to be fair.
I'm interested. I'm definitely interested to see what that feels like.
I've seen lots of asymmetrical designs in the past where they've tried to, essentially on a rear wheel especially, you have to dish the wheel over. So you want everything possible to give the spokes the straightest line. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I'd imagine actually, as well as reducing stress on the actual spokes and spoke nipples, it'd be actually good on the rim itself. Because on a lot of lightweight rims that don't have like the eyelets on them, you get stress cracks around them. And I reckon just by angling them over, probably reduce that quite a lot.
Yeah, I guess
I like it. I'd like to try set those. That's a good idea. Black Friday has unfortunately ended on the GMBN store, so unlucky if you missed out there. But nevertheless, there are great stocking fillers on the site, so please do support us, and we're going to have a load of stocking filler ideas on next week's show. So tune in, and you might find that ideal little present for the mountain biking love of your life, even if it's yourself.
Okay, for the quiz, I've gone hard in on the fat bike knowledge here. So my first question is, the first fat bike style wide tyre was prototyped in the early 1980s by Michelin, but what was its intended use? Bit of a curveball here.
Yeah, not actually even sure about that one myself. Fat bikes are argued to have been around since the early 1900s, but when was the term fat bike first coined?
And the Surly Pugsley was the first commercially available fat bike, arguably, in 2005, 2006. But how wide were those tyres?
I remember that, because I rode one of those things and I got a puncture on it. Okay, time for some comments from last week's show where we were talking about buy cheap or upgrade or buy all new the first time. First comment from Matt Mitchell. I love this topic. I actually land in both camps. Full suspension, buy the best bike parts kit I can afford all the time. For hardtails, I go cheaper and upgrade over time. Not sure why, but I like it that way.
Yeah, don't have to have a reason.
Fair enough.
Latour32RR said, I've always liked getting a lower end frame and upgrading it. I think it's the underdog aspect that is the most attractive. If you buy a high end bike, you expect to ride amazingly. But with an entry level frame, everything it handles beyond a smooth dirt path is amazing.
Nice. Yeah, I get that, but I also think that the frame is arguably the most important bit of a bike. You know, whether you have cheap stuff on it in a more expensive frame.
Well, just because he's going
maybe that's
budget,
a different chat.
It might be like budget carbon frame.
I think we need to look at an overall budget for a different chat
Maybe.
on, you know, expensive stuff, cheap frame, or expensive frame, cheap stuff.
Yeah.
There's a video there,
Yeah.
I'm sure of it. Brian F says, definitely in the upgrade camp. Started with a basic Kona hardtail and I've upgraded everything except the frame, handlebars and brakes.
Sounds like you.
Yeah, triggers brain. Bought the bike for $750 with the purpose of wanting to upgrade parts as I could afford them. Found your GMBN Tech channel and followed your very detailed videos on how to do work myself.
Aww.
Now, £1,000 or $1,000 worth of parts later, I have a very capable hardtail. If you search for new bike specs like what I have now, it'd be well over 3,000.
I mean,
dude, that's a bargain, being able to do that.
Isn't it? And that is one of the good things of upgrading, if you can do it. For cheaper, yeah. Rodrigo Motta, after some trial and error, aka expensive mistakes, I found that the most cost-effective approach for me is to buy the first build, which the suspension is pretty good, and upgrade the brakes, maybe the dropper if needed, and store the original parts so that when I do sell the bike, I can keep my high-end brakes. Yeah, good idea. I really don't see the point on upgrading group set. Even the Dior NX are so good right now. Yeah, totally agree with you there, Rodrigo.
Thunderstruck MTB, I build all my bikes frame up and pick every single component that I want and don't waste a penny on one I don't. I take my time to find the best deal for all the components and never pay the retail price. Make sure the frame is as future-proof as possible with things like boost, tapered, head tube, 31/6 seat tube, etc. And I'll keep it for 5 to 7 years whilst maintaining it.
Wow.
Yeah, it all sounds pretty sensible. And I think there's probably a lot of people like you that sort of like pound stretch a bit and they look absolutely everywhere to find like the best price on that one thing.
Can anything ever be future-proof though for more than 3 years in this industry? I don't know. That's a different argument, maybe.
That is a different argument.
David Jennings, I buy the best second-hand bike I can get and ride it until it is no more. Works if you service it yourself, but it costs loads if you get a bike shop to maintain it. Yeah, fair play. Ride it into the ground. That's what I do with cars.
That's what I'm doing in my car. It's absolutely done. Next, last one is from Andres Rodriguez Perez. Both of your points of view depend a lot on how you see your bike. You see it as something personal. You could say it's something personal which you want to invest time and money on, or you could see it as a tool for your favourite activity and it's more practical to replace the whole thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah, all good points. Thank you, everyone, for commenting, as usual. Okay, now we're going to jump into Bike Cave. Don't forget, you can get involved in the Bike Cave section of the show. There's a link at the bottom of the screen. There's another one down there you can click on. Show us your Bike Cave, whether it's a shed, the back of your car, or your loft. Doesn't matter where you keep your bike. We want to see it. Tell us about yourselves. This one this week is from Brian in Atlanta. Just got done rebuilding the Bike Cave. All that's left is the epoxy floor in spring. Whoa.
Yeah, nice one. And I mean, this is serious stuff.
I love all the screwdrivers and Allen keys down the front there of the workbench.
Oh, nice.
That's a nice little way of doing it.
But this thing looks pro. This looks like he's, pro level.
It looks like a bit of a bike shop with all those tyres and SRAM spares at the back there.
Yeah, nice stuff.
Flipping heck, I've only just got to that shot. Drinking some kind of cloudy IPA there, looks like, as well.
Excellent. And he gets extra points for putting the tech show on TV screen up in the corner of the webcam.
Oh, good,
Bang.
Good.
Nice.
God, it looks awesome, doesn't it, this place?
And then, well, from a serious to quite a simple setup here, I've got from, Vinicius, he's called himself. Basically, his simple setup, but he loves it, over in Brazil.
Nice.
And it's just nice tidy drawers, lots of products out on the work surface, plenty of shelving, lots of hooks. You've got helmets, bags hanging up on the walls, all his shoes and helmets in the right place. All
his racking in there as well.
There's something, I don't know, this spoke to me just because you could walk in there and know exactly where the thing you want is, it is. So yeah, thanks so much for sending that in.
All good, great stuff. Thanks for sending your Bike Caves.
Okay, I really wanted a fat bike quiz today, but you're gonna have to take these answers with a little pinch of salt because I think it's really debatable out there as to what a fat bike is and so when was the first one. Because you were saying, well, let me tell you the answer of this, and then you can tell me your argument.
One, and then I'll jump in.
What was the first fat bike style? What was the intended use of that fat tyre? It was actually to ride on sand. So Jean Noude used it to cross the Sahara Desert in 1986. There was also a guy who was inventing some stuff in Mexico. Those two were the first in the 80s, and they were doing it to ride on sand, not snow, which is what I thought. It
totally makes sense to try and spread the tyre out. The reason I'm asking is because there used to be the Idita Rod race, or it used to be called Idita Bike, and from everything I can remember about covering this in the magazine days, people used to use double rims and double tyres because you couldn't get fat tyres.
Yeah.
Or you couldn't get a fat rim to put one of those fat tyres on, whatever it was. I don't know.
Well, see, the second question will kind of answer that because the fat bikes were argued to have been around in the 1900s. Actually, I think some people in California were putting sort of bubble-style tyres on their cruisers in the 70s, if you want to argue that that's a fat bike. But generally, the fat bike term was coined in 2001. It was by an Alaskan rider who did notice these Mexican inventions and the guy who was racing across the desert on these wider tyres and thought, that's actually a better idea for a Iditarod. And he stole it in like 1999-ish and when everyone was using like 2 or 3 wheels lined up and welded together to get that wider footprint. And then in 99, he was like, well, that's a really good idea, having an actual wide tyre. We'll put that on the bike that I'm using. And he took it to Interbike, I think in 99, but it wasn't until 2001 that he called it a fat bike. So take what you will of that. And then moving on, it wasn't until about 2005, 2006 that we actually saw commercially available fat bikes. Previous to that, they were kind of these custom ideas for Iditarod and such like. The Surly Pugsley was arguably the first fat bike commercially available. How wide were the tyres? Only 3.7 inches, actually.
I actually rode one of those. And I got a puncture on it and never rode one again afterwards. I was like, meh. Sat with a mini pump going,
Well, back when they sort of just were coming about in the Iditarod, they were like 3 inch wide, 3 inch to 3.4 inch tyres, which nowadays isn't huge, is it?
It's not massive. No.
It's like plus size.
They kind of settled on 4 though, haven't they, really?
Yeah, so now they're like 3.7 up to 5 inches you can get, which is huge. But yeah, they started off 3.7 inches. So there you go.
Sounds so little now, doesn't it?
Mini fat bike kind of knowledge quiz there. But anyway, hey guys, don't forget the topic today is winter bike. What are they? Is there such a thing as a winter bike? Is a fat bike the winter bike? Let us know down in the comments below. And I guess we'll see you again next week.
Christmas gift special.
Oh yes. Bye.
Ho, ho, ho.